introduce our panel's committee of the thesis examinations. We have the expert examiner, Professor Eric Denece, and we do have Professor Dr. Mahmud Syaltout as your supervisors, and I will act as the chairman of the committee, Shiskha Prabawaningtyas. So this thesis defense will be consist of the part. First, we're going to listen to your presentations. We allocate not more than 10 to 20 minutes of your presentations, and then we're going to open the discussion further on your thesis. And the third part, all the committee member will have time to decide the result of the defense. So without further ado, I would like to invite Bimantoro to start his presentations. Time is yours.
Okay. Thank you for the board examiner, Ibu Shiskha Prabawaningtyas as the head of board examiner, and Professor Eric Denece as one of examiner in this my thesis defense, and also thank you for Bapak Mahmud Syaltout as my supervisor. Let's starting my presentation in my thesis defense. My thesis defense titled China Soft Power Analysis in China-US Digital Diplomacy Network through the Open Source Intelligence or OSINT. So there is three aspects of this presentation. First one is the China soft power itself, and the second one is China Digital Diplomacy Network, or more than about the China-US relationship, and the open source intelligence as the data source acquisition model. And then this is the slide that help to understand what is the big agenda, what's the big picture of my research. Every entity in the world have a yin and yang aspect, the good entity and bad entity. So yin is represented as a bad entity, and yang is represented as a good entity. So in this research, one object, political party, political system, communism system in China is seen by a yin perspective that represented by the USA. And the details of the yin aspect of this research is USA promote to distrust towards communism. So USA try to promote communism is untransparent ideology. But in the other side, in the good side, China see their ideology is tools to obtain this national interest, and then to obtain the successiveness in order to political stability and economic development. So there is a yin and yang perspective in order to executive summary and giving the one object and different perspective. And then this executive summary comes from three contemplative things. And the first contemplative one is I trying to see what is the China objective in terms of gaining the national interest. Based on the statement or address from Hu Jintao and Xi Jinping, they trying to enhance culture as a soft power. So there's a differentiation between the hard and soft. They try to transform not only about the military and economy, but enhancing the culture as a soft power. And what is the consequence from this enhancement? So China invests many much money, 10 billion in a year, in order to conducting the Confucius Institute, mass media like CGTN, People Daily China, in order to publish the China soft power. But the result from the 30 soft power country that I wrote in this thesis, in the part one, is not reflecting the successiveness of the China soft power investment. The China soft power investment, the China soft power index from 30 country is always below in the table. So it is not a good result from the huge investment that they did. And then in terms of how they delivering the soft power through the conventional way, it is not sweet with the recent development that the political game in recent development is conducting in the cyberspace. And if we are conducting the political game in the cyberspace, we have to aware about the digital diplomacy context. That the digital diplomacy context previously is analyzing about software and hardware investment in order to presenting the cybersecurity. But in recent development nowadays, digital diplomacy is not only about the cybersecurity. Digital diplomacy talking about the actors' activity in order to promoting the national interest. So by looking the three complementative remarks that I present in this slide, I have 4 research questions. The first one is, what is the model that can describe the soft power used by China? And the second one, how the soft power is used in the US-China digital diplomacy? And the third one, what influenced the value of China's soft power? And the fourth one, or lastly, how do actors behave in the China digital diplomacy network? So the last question is about the actors' behavior in this network. In order to answering these 4 research questions, I have the theoretical framework. Mentioning about the actor activity, so I utilizing the Bruno Latour philosophy, actor network theory or Bruno Latour theory. So Bruno Latour say that the actors is constructing the social order, and in this digital diplomacy social order, what is the content that promoting by each actor in the network? The content that published and the content that been compete is the soft power itself, and soft power containing a very much variable and indicators. In order to get a comprehensive variable about the power source that is being used in the power in the soft power, I use the 7 universal culture theory from Klukchon, which explaining about the culture is defined in the 7 variable, and each variable in this slide have each indicators, and each indicator in this slide have each keywords that help me to get a better data, clean data from the internet or the OSINTs. So this is the sequence of the theoretical framework. In order to answering the 4 research question, I also believe that the parallel mixed method is the sweetest one method to answering the 4 research question. In this method, I use these 3 sequence. The first sequence is the qualitative jobs. The qualitative jobs that I do is a great literature review, reading many literatures in order to building a model that answering the first research question. This is the qualitative jobs, first one. And the second one is grabbing and acquiring data from open source intelligence, which Twitter and article with data crawling and web scraping methods. And this quantitative works is be done to answering the second and third research question, which how the soft power is used and what influence the soft power value. And this first and second sequence is the part of the mixed method explanatory, because I have the last research question, which asking about the actors' behavior in China, in US-China digital diplomacy network. I need more data, additional data that comes from the OSINT, and the additional data must reflecting the actors' activity. And the sweetest data that can reflecting the actors' activity is the network data, relational database data. And then the method in order to answering this question by this data is the network analysis. This is the parallel mixed method that I do in my writings. And then we are jumping to the first research question. The first research question is, what is the model that describe the soft power used by China, or what is the power source that China oftenly use in the digital diplomacy network? The first thing that must be noticed is the numbers. They are 7 numbers that embedded with the each variable. Numbers means the importance of the variable with each variable, and this number comes from the NEV or net negative factor value that been produced by the judgmental comparison. So I compare every statement in the literature review in order to get this number. And by looking this number, we can see that the political system variable is the more higher. So for the noticement, more higher number means more important this variable. And if we can see in this slide, the political system variable is the most important variable in this system. And continuing with the economic system and in the equipment, science, and so on and so forth. And the second marks that we have to see is the direction. So every variable have a direction with each variable, and there is a bidirectional political system and economics, equipment, and science. So this means the relation and influence with others variable. For example, the China political system has an influence in economic system, and economic system has influence to the political system, because from the Deng Xiaoping era, these two variable is constructed to modernize the China itself. So in order to get investment, you have to change your political system from the Mao Marxist class consciousness into the Mao into the Marxist and communist as a party disciplinary. And the following explanation is been I have been worked in my thesis in the part 2. For the more details, you can read it, and I can explain in the question faster. And then this is the second research question: how does China soft power is used in the digital diplomacy network? So the soft power is used by using the communism as a power source. So there are power sources that can be used, possibly used in the digital diplomacy network: economic power, the religion, or etc. But China and America and USA trying to use political system as the most used variable, and communism is the most utilized power source. So the activity in the digital diplomacy network is about the promoting the political system of China, which communism, promoting the successiveness of China communism. And then the second answer of the second research question is only China's NGO use economic system as the most used power source. So every cluster, government, mass media, civil society, NGO, use political system and communism as the power source. But only China NGO use the economic system as the power source. And then the third one is about the digital diplomacy objective. Based on the explanation in the part 2 in my thesis, I put the theory about digital diplomacy layer. So digital diplomacy have a 3 objective. First one is the first layer, digital diplomacy, is a tools to present the public service for diaspora. And then the second one, digital diplomacy have a second layer, which focusing about the achieving the national interest or promoting the national interest through the digital media. And the last one, the third layer, the last layer, digital diplomacy is a key to presenting the cyber security. So in these findings, in this research, I see that mostly digital diplomacy layer 2 is the most layer used in this digital diplomacy network. Means every actors in this network use digital media to promoting the national interest. And then this is the third research question: what influence value of China's soft power? This one is the decision tree layout. So how to read the decision tree layout? Decision tree layout describing the scenario, the best scenario to achieving your goals. So my goals, if I am become a China authority, I want to increase the China soft power. So in order to increase China soft power, I have a second scenario. The second scenario is I using the China politics variable. I'm promoting everything about the China politics, not economy or not China science. And how to maximize the China politic uses is using the promotion of communism system. And if we want to more precise to choosing who is the best frontliner in order to promoting the communism, there are a list of actors that I put here, and you can see in my finding. But if I have to resum, there are China's MOFA network, Ministry of Foreign Affairs network, like spokesperson China. Zhong Langjai also the spokesperson China. USA China Talk is US Embassy, and then the ambassador Chiu Tiankai is the China ambassador for USA. And also there are actors that focus in their own expertise, like China Business Review, that focusing on China business investment. And then also the 21st century of China, that focusing about the language, religion, and many things. But this issue that bring from the actors list is always related to the communism. So this is the best scenario. I put some scenario in my thesis. We can discuss it later. And then this is the last research question. in order to answering the last research question, there are two layout. There are two metrics in order to answering actors' behavior in digital diplomacy network. First one is stakeholder map. What is stakeholder map? Stakeholder map is the metrics that defining actors' position in a soft power issue. So the variable of the if the stakeholder map is level of interest and level of influence. Before I explain about which actor include in level of interest and level of influence, this stakeholder map is constructed and counted by three algorithms in network analysis. First algorithm is weighted degree. What is weighted degree? Weighted degree is reflecting the actor's ability to engage with each other. And in this research, in this stakeholder map, is weighted degree is reflecting by the level of influence. And the second algorithm is level of interest. Level of interest is coming by the algorithm PageRank, name PageRank. PageRank reflecting the ability, analyzing the ability of each actor in order to become primary information in the network. And then the third algorithm that used is closeness centrality between the centrality and PR in the tree, which those three algorithms reflecting about which actor that can become the bridging of the information bridge. So if I am the president of China and I want to distribute about China's soft power, I will choose the actor with the highest between the centrality and the information with softly and properly distribute in the network. So this is the explanation about the between the centrality, and between the centrality, closest centrality is reflected by the size nodes, the node size. More higher the node size, more higher the between the centrality, and the smaller size means the lesser the number of between the centrality. By looking those two variable, level of interest and level of influence, there are four classification of stakeholder map. The first one is a key player. So the key player is the actors that have a high level of interest, means that they have ability to become a primary information, and then high level of influence. They can engage with each other. And then what is the actors in the key player? The actors in the key player have a characteristic. First one, they discussing about the 5G implementation, which is risky for the national security or not. And then the second one, they discussing about the China's Communist Party leadership in terms of COVID-19 management, in terms of the Xinjiang and many things. And the actors characteristic cluster in this key player is non-governmental and civil society. And if I can mention three big actors with the high with the high number of level of influence and interest, those actors are Chairman Teo, a civil society from Singapore. They're expert. She expert in the healthcare, and European Union and Huawei discussing about 5G implementation. So in my findings, European Union support the 5G implementation in Europe, and Huawei also support the statement of European Union. So this is the interest and influence in the top three actors in the key players. So how about the influential actors? The influential actor have a high level of influence, means they can engage with each actor in this network, but unfortunately they don't have ability to distribute and becoming the key primary information in this network. And what is the activity of the actors in the influential player? The first one is discussing about Xinjiang human rights violence, and the second one is Mandarin language promotion. And what is the cluster that describing the influential player? Influential player reflecting the NGO activity in there. No government, no mass media, NGO. And then top three actors in the influential player is the Asia Society, China File, and US Embassy for China. For sure, Asia Society and China File discussing about Mandarin language, and US Embassy for China for sure discussing about the Xinjiang human rights violence. And then the third one, the referential player, the actors that have ability to become the primary information because they have high level of interest, but unfortunately they have lesser level of influence, means they cannot engage with each other. So the characteristic of this quadrant, they discussing about China economy and investment. So this quadrant, if I can mention or label this quadrant is constructed by the expertise. So they discussing about the China economic and investment and China leadership in Hong Kong. And the characteristic of the cluster in this quadrant is NGO and civil society, with with top three actors: Nick Srivin, U.S. China Investment Project, and Surab Gupta. If you are looking for a bigger picture, the stakeholder map is conducted by the non-state actors. So if I become in China, I will very happy because the public diplomacy is very success. And then this is the stakeholder allegiance. What is the difference of stakeholder map and stakeholder allegiance? The differentiation is from the goals from the matrix. Stakeholder allegiance trying to describe the actor's loyalty towards the issue. So by looking the level of interest and level of sentiment, the same algorithm, but the key differentiation is level of sentiment. So level of sentiment replacing the position of level of influence. The level of sentiment is classified as the positive sentiment and negative sentiment about the China soft power issue. By looking this matrix, there are 5 classification of stakeholder allegiance. The first one is advocate. The advocate is the actors that have level of interest, ability to become the primary information, and also the positive sentiment. So they will advocate the China soft power issue, everything in everywhere. And the characteristic of this issue in the advocate is they discussing about China political system with the positive sentiment, and the China economic development also with positive sentiment. And the cluster characteristic in this advocate quadrant is NGO, with top 3 actors, also Nick Srivin, Surab Gupta, and Mike Walter. Top 3 actors that also appears in stakeholder map. And the second one is the followers actors. The followers actors have a positive sentiment about the China soft power, but lesser level of interest. So they cannot influence each other because they don't have ability to become a key primary information. But the sentiment of the China soft power from those actors is positive. And the characteristic issue of the followers actors is they follow the China economic development with positive sentiment discussion, and also discuss a positive sentiment about Confucianism. And the characteristic cluster in this quadrant is the NGO, mass media, and academia, with top 3 actors: National Endowment for Humanity, Scott Kennedy CIS, and China Perspective. And how about the 3 quadrant opponent? The opponent actors have a lesser level of sentiment, negative sentiment about China soft power, but high level of interest. The characteristic of this quadrant is they discussing about countering negative issue on China with mass media and surprisingly the Global Times News. This is a surprise finding because Global Times News is a media that subsidiary of the China government. So they have a policy of media censorship, and they have a negative sentiment. But if I looking deeply to the data raw, I see that I see there is a different insight about this. Global Times News is uses for countering negative issue. Therefore, every content they publish is containing and consisting about the negative keywords. So they try to use negative keywords for appealing in Twitter algorithm. This is the findings that I find. And then the 4 quadrant is the China political system. Blocker. Blocker actors is the negative sentiment and have no influence in the network. And the characteristic of this quadrant is they discussing about China political system negatively and 5G technology negatively. And finally, we found the government actors from the 2 metrics that I put. This is the government in the blockers actor, specifically USA government. And the top 2 actors in this quadrant is ASEAN Pacific Affairs and US China Perception Monitor. They talking everything negatively about China, COVID-19 management, Xinjiang human rights violence, Hong Kong, and many things by utilizing those 2 actors. And then the last quadrant is the indifferent. The indifferent quadrant is constructed by analyzing the level of interest and level of sentiment. But the key differentiation of the indifferent quadrant is uh, the level of sentiment of this quadrant is moderate. So they tends to be neutral in this quadrant. And then the characteristic issue that they discuss is 5G implementation. So the negative sentiment, the neutral sentiment means they tends to buying time in order to get much information, better information about 5G. Then they decided. And then the cluster characteristic in the indifferent quadrant is non-governmental, commerce, and civil society. And the surprise finding that I found is US-China Investment Project, US State Department, and European Union is in different quadrant. So it means they have no decision yet about how US should react with the 5G implementation from China. They try to be neutral in the sentiment analysis, and they try to buying time for getting more information. Referring to the stakeholder map and stakeholder allegiance, I think what should China read? What should China give a reaction to this network? First one is I think and I believe China should promote their political idea in another issue, because if we are refer to the decision tree, political system as a power source is very effective to increase the China's of power. So in every issue, they have to publish and promote intangibly political idea of communism there, if they want to increase the soft power. And China must increase the engagement with US NGO and mass media, because reflecting the stakeholder map and the stakeholder allegiance, US NGO and mass media always support China and have a different perspective with the government itself. And the last suggestion that I think China must do is some actors do not take position yet about 5G issue, because reflecting in the stakeholder allegiance, US actors is in the indifferent position. So they tends to be neutral. And if China want to move up the position of the US position from the indifferent to the advocate, they have to more uh, engage more strongly to the US actors. This is what I suggest to China. And then what I suggest to USA, if USA want to attack China and decrease the China's soft power, USA have to attack political system variable through the human right perspective. Because every issue that USA brings out to the network is always have no ability to become a key reference, in excluding the Xinjiang issue. So if is USA trying to promoting the Xinjiang human rights violence through the political system power source, it is very effective to decreasing China's soft power, and also reflecting and analyzing USA government position uh, in the stakeholder allegiance, which blocker less level of interest. I think USA, if USA were to decrease the China's soft power, USA should utilize non-state actors. And then this is the conclusion of my research. So the first, second, and third research question is been answered. The model that can describe the power source use and the influence factors that increasing the China's of power is the political system. So if China use political system idea, political system promoting activity as a power source in soft power in the digital diplomacy network, they will win the competition. And then the last research question, how do actors behave in the US-China digital diplomacy network? I can interpret there are a successiveness of China public diplomacy, because we can see there are NGOs, civil society in the strong position in the network. And then there is a different narration to see China political system, like a yin and yang in the beginning that I explained about. And the last slide that I wrote is the research utility. I think this research have a utility for the next researcher who will understand which variable that should be analyzed deeper in order to understand China's soft power. And for China government, they can understand which power source must be utilized in the digital diplomacy network. And also they understand the SWOT analysis about the soft power source that they have. And also same point for the US government. if they want to decrease the China point in digital diplomacy index, soft power index, I mean, they have to understand about China power source and attack rightly, and they understand about the strength, weakness, opportunity threats towards the China soft power. And for others that they want to get a more beneficial towards this competition, this two big country competition, this research have a utility to giving understanding about the actors and network and information distribution pattern in this network. So the other state can develop many programs that reflecting to the research finding. I think that's enough. I waiting for the feedback, and I hope I can answer the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Bimantoro, for your presentations. I think it's quite long from the expected. Without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Eric Denece to start the discussions.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. I really appreciate because it was clear, it was short, it was precise. Though, first of all, I would like to congratulate you for your very good work. And as I know you're working with Dr. Syaltout, I'm not surprised of such a result.
Thank you.
As you know, the rule of the game is to be to criticize. So I will have some positive and negative criticism. And you have also, Mr. Bimantoro, to understand that I'm French. So maybe the way I analyze your presentation will be different than the one of my Indonesian colleagues. First of all, I think we have. I told you, in my opinion, this is a good work because the methodology is almost perfect, and I really appreciate that. And I would like to tell you, this is better than most of the master I saw in France. For a good reason, maybe in France, we focus much more on the content than on the method. And so sometimes, in my opinion, we import too many US formulas and methods in France, but your presentation on this point was very good, and I think this is a good point for you. On the other side, I was a little bit disappointed concerning some vocabulary. In my opinion, your thesis, your subject is not about the digital network, but digital theater.
Sorry, pardon me, digital what?
It's in my opinion, it's something about digital theater. Understand? Not network, because network is something you can share. Theater is a place where you have some rivalries, and what you are talking about, in my opinion, is about the rivalry between the perception of the US and the China's perception. So I think it would have been maybe more appropriate to talk about the digital theater or the cyber theater than the digital one. Secondly, you're talking about OSINT. And as you know, I'm a former intelligence officer. For me, it's a little mistake. You're talking about, in fact, you're talking about open sources, not about OSINT. OSINT is a result. OSINT is a product. You use open source to product OSINT. But what you have done in your text, in your presentation, you're talking about open sources and specifically what we call social network. So maybe it's much more appropriate to talk about SOCMINT, which is a short part of OSINT. But in fact, you don't have any reference concerning internet data or something like that. So, well, in my opinion, these 2 points, in order to be much more clear when you talk with practitioner, it's to talk about digital theater and to talk about open sources, not OSINT specifically. I have so many papers on my. So I think it was very interesting because thanks to you, I discovered Bruno Latour that I don't know. I didn't know Bruno Latour. Maybe Dr. Mahmud Syaltout know Bruno Latour. I don't know who is it. So I suppose he's French or Belgium or Swiss. I don't know it. But I'm a little bit disappointed by his concept. This is interesting. I know you have to take it into reference. I didn't know that, but I'm still reserved because I don't see exactly. I didn't have time to research on internet the Bruno Latour theory. I think it's important that you have some reference like that, but I would have to maybe to have much more discussion about that on this point. Concerning your text, I would like to emphasize that you have a very good presentation of the basis of the China's cultural soft power. This is very interesting because I really appreciate your presentation and differentiation between Confucianism and structural realism, because this is 2 points who are very important, and you have seen everything. Maybe you should have emphasize more concerning strategic culture. What is the Chinese strategic culture? I mean, conception of war, conception of rivalries and antagonism, and the place of influence in the national policy. Because you're talking about digital influence, this is, I mean, the core business of the core of the subject, but it would have been maybe interesting to understand much more what is the exact place of the digital influence in the global soft power, in the global China's influence. Concerning the soft power, I'm myself much. I prefer to talk about the free. You know, I don't know. We consider that the new international relation, they are free new pillars of powers. Culture, first of all, military, political and military is the first one. Culture is the second one, and economy is the third one. This is, I mean, the theory we privilege in France. When you are talking about culture, when you're talking about the basis of the China's soft power. I think you were talking about it, but we should have a good understanding the difference between the contents and the product. I mean, the contents, maybe you forget to talk about everything related to education, law, and entertainment. Of course, it was not the subject when you're talking about the 5G. I know that, but when we think about the US soft power, which is, I mean, something very, very powerful and very dangerous, in my opinion, the main basis of their efficiency is law, because everybody, a language, because everybody speaks English, law, because in most of the world we are working under the rule of the English and US law, and education. Also, because most of the people are attending the US university and school, and of course entertainment, because they are very, very for them the role the function of Hollywood cinema movie is very important in the fact they are how can I say, influencing the rest of the world. And of course, I perfectly understood that your subject is on digital network, but maybe you should have say some words about the fact that digital network is maybe only a short part of China's soft power. And in my opinion, when you're working on such a matter, you should also understand that, how can I say, it's a short part of the whole of the global problem, and this is what we call perception management. It's not the real world; it's a way the people have some perception about the dialogue and all the things that happen on the cyber networks. What else? Concerning concerning the structure of your text. I'm sorry because I made some mistakes. I'm going to ask you some question for instance. First of all, because I don't know nothing about that, can you give me some example concerning the Chinese NGO you were talking about when you say they are they believe that economic power is something better. I don't have any reference in this on this subject.
Okay. So there is a huge notice for you, Professor. I not all about them, and then I think I can explain about the China economy that utilized through the NGO. Pak Syaltout, can I show the Power BI dashboard in order to get a better understanding?
It's not in your computer?
In my computer.
Yes.
No, I just want you to give me an example of one of Chinese NGO, because I understand what you mean, but I don't have any reference in my mind because I don't know them. What is their objective? What are they doing? Because I suppose they are not promoting human rights.
Okay.
Or maybe.
I need a half a minute, Professor, in order to check the data. Can I give you a minute?
Yeah, it is of course. In order to be sure that you understand my question, for instance, in the Western world, the basis of the soft power is freedom, is liberalism, and so on. And of course, we have NGO who are promoting human rights, freedom, and free enterprise, and so on. So I would like to understand what is the objective or the aim of the Chinese NGO you were talking about.
In order to answering the objective of the China NGO, I need to show this because there are more China NGO that I grabbing, and then if this is the list of China economy issue actors with China parties and the NGO. So if we are erase China, there is a list of NGO that discussing about China economy, and there's a China file, and if we are clicking the China file, the discussion about the Belt and Road Initiative.
Ah, okay, I see.
So that's why I need this dashboard in order to answering your question.
Okay, no, this is perfect. I didn't know that, so thank you. What else? Yes, I was talking a few months ago. I was talking about perception management, and what I would like you maybe not to understand, because I'm sure you understand that, but maybe you should have presented more the fact that when you're working on a subject, which is a digital network like that, it's not really the truth. It's only a perception of a specific situation. I mean that it's the same thing when we are working on the mainstream media. The mainstream media don't reflect the reality of the situation in a country or in the world. But I understand it's very interesting to study that subject. So this is something I'd like to say. What else? Well, I would like just to give you some word, to send you some word concerning as a conclusion. Once again, congratulations for your work. I really appreciate it's serious. It's a good organization of the presentation. I would say, as an academic, I think it's an excellent work because everything concerning the method is almost perfect. You have a good review of literature, you have a good glossary, you have the concept are well defined, and so on. As a practitioner, as I told you, as a former intelligence officer, I ask myself about the utility of your analysis, because I don't see really the point of the topic. What does this contribute to understand the China's influence policy, to its improvement, to the means to counter it? I know what you mean, but I'm really perplexed about the point of this kind of analysis. I would like to have some more information concerning some more reference concerning the notion of information warfare, of perception management, cognitive action. But of course, as I told you, I'm criticizing because most of the time we are looking to the point which are not in your presentation. But globally, once again, it's a good work. And the objective of my reaction was to maybe to give you some more enlightenment on the different points you should have also take into account to give, a more global presentation. But once again, I appreciate what you have done, and for me, it's a good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor Eric Denece. Now, Bimantoro, yeah, I would like to continue the discussion from the some point that Professor Eric already mentioned. So I would like to kind of sum up some of my notes and remark on your presentation. I think I'm agree with Professor Denece that I really enjoy your presentation. It's quite a good work how to simplify a lot of writings that you done. But as far as Professor Denece already mentions that he came from the background of intelligence. I think this is also my concerns and my note just to put you on the context of the study position, especially you are graduate from international relations and School of Diplomacy. And I would like to point out, I think one of the thing that struck me when I read your manuscript is that I kind of lost in kind of locate your position of your studies. And I think when I heard the discussion between you and Professor Denece, and Professor Eric already mentions about the strategic cultures and also the link about the perceptions, because I kind of miss the link when you kind of try to focus your studies within the digital, and Professor Denece already highlight about the perception. So I think it is just a small part of the way China use the soft powers in regard to his relation to the US. From that, I would like to start. I think I have 4 notes that I would like to hear further on your explanation. First of all, is you mentioned about positioning structural realism into the passivism, and then you try to connect that into the use of soft powers in regard to the US. Could you explain further more on your understanding on that?
Okay, thank you, Bu Shiskha, for the question about the relation between the structural realism and Confucian passivism. I note this statement from Yuan Kangwang from the historiography perspective, in order to depict what is China behavior towards the competition structure. And then I see that there's a two approach in order to competing in the high level structure in terms of the China historiography, and they also depict the China competition in the Deng Xiaoping era. The result is when China is in the stronger position, the parameter of stronger is they want to change the status quo. They will act with the structural realism method, which they will find the structure, and there's a USA there, and they compete with the high level state in the high level competition structure. And then when the China is the weaker position in the structure, they will try to use attraction. So not hard power, but use power. So what is the correlation between this structural realism and Confucian pacifism with the soft power? I think that the China and US is in the high level structure of competition, and then regarding to the structural realism, there are 2 terms: revisionist and status quo. And I believe USA is still in the status quo because the China thinks because China still think that they have to enhance this culture as soft power. So by this Hu Jintao statement, I think that China is adapting with the structure, and they see they in the weaker position, and so therefore they use the soft power itself. This is my explanation.
Okay, thank you, Bimo. Because I want to try to connect that on the research question that you've been formulate, because it's unusual the way we have the format of our thesis. Usually we kind of focus have two research questions, but you kind of propose 4 research questions, right? Yeah. And at that point, I would like to hear your answer, because you kind of questions. First research question is, what is the models that that can represent Chinese powers model, and reflecting on the point that Professor Denece already mentioned about the perceptions. So these questions means that you kind of propose your perception on the model that China introduced, or this is part of the policy that the Chinese do have, like a strategic policy that the Chinese actually formulate in regard to the use of their soft powers.
Okay, thank you.
Do you get my questions? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before I answering, I will confirm because I think I have to confirm my understanding about your question. So the first question is, how is the model that describe the China soft power use? And then, is it my perception of the China soft power itself, or is it the Chinese program in order to increase soft power? Is it right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Kindly. So
Okay.
this question is based on your perceptions, or you also kind of refer to the policy that the China did, the strategic things, the cultures, how they kind of form the way how they're going to use their soft powers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Firstly, when I built the model, I also confused about the answer itself. Is it my perception, or should I look the policy that China did? So it is confused moment, confused process sequence that I did in the first earlier in my supervision with Pak Syaltout. So this one is the hard one when I did the model, and the result of the model is my perception. So I decide to build model based on my perception, because I'm trying to see a lot of cultures theory that can reflecting to the soft power, but the soft power discussing about the power source. So the power source, the power attraction that can presenting the state power in the global structure. But the cultures theory that I found is not reflecting about the power source. So it is very hard. So I'm trying to using the explanatory method, because I want to build my perception in the first. So I built my qualitative works with many literatures, and then the result is this is my perception.
Okay, so you kind of propose the way we can understand by more on grounding based approach. That's kind of, you want to confirm, just to confirm?
Yes.
Okay. And then I think this will connect on your formulation of the second questions. Yeah. And I believe those of 2 questions, you gonna discuss and answer that in your chapter 3?
Yes, in chapter 3.
Okay. So when it is your perceptions, then the model that you propose to understanding the way the China kind of use their soft powers toward the US. Yeah. This is also connect to the idea of Professor Denece already mentions about we should is it not the network, but this is the theater. Yeah. So how you kind of measures this? How does the soft power? The second questions. How do you connect that?
So the connection between the first and the second research question. The first research question end product is the variable and indicators with the weighting, and then the second and third research question is the quantitative force with the end product of the quantitative force in the second and third research question is the counting of soft power index. And in the soft power index counting, there are some variable use, power source use, indicator use. So I can understand which variable or which power source that oftenly used by each actors. And the indicators and the variable is coming from the first process, in qualitative process. I think this is the connection.
Yeah, because this is kind of important to my understanding, because when you ask kind of how, and you coming from your perceptions, then you have an assumption of the actors who does that, right? Is it?
Yes.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. So whether it is the networks or on you decide letters, this is the theaters. Yeah. So do you have any difference of approach of doing how between the actors, whether because you kind of create your own categorizations, yeah, whether this is the NGO or we on or in international literature, for example, we have these categorizations of state actors, of non-state actors, yeah. So what is your finding tell about the differences of actors in doing how to the soft powers?
Okay, I will resum your question first, Bu.
Okay.
So you want me to answer about how is the differentiation of soft power use between each actors, right? So what is the soft power approach from government, NGO, and mass media?
Because your questions did not mention about the subject, yeah.
Yeah.
So how you should have a subject there, but you don't mention about the subject there. How does soft power use? So who's using the soft powers? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. This question is better to answer by visualizing the dashboard.
Okay.
So I'm trying to load the dashboard first. Okay. I think this is an error. Okay, so the differentiation between those three clusters, government, NGO, and mass media, this dashboard, I think this dashboard can tell the equation. So if I click on the NGO clusters, so there are a list of NGO that operating soft power in my findings, and then there is a variable that they use. So you can see the China politics is in the top of the table from NGO, and then China economy is competing with the China politics, and then there are utilizing of some variable. It means the NGO tends to trying to balance the promoting of China politics and economy. And how about the government? And if we are looking the government, we can see the composition of the government that operate the China soft power is more in USA actors, and we can see the China politics is the most power source that been used in the findings. So same with the NGO, there are China politics aspect, but NGO tends to promote more about the China economy, like I said in my presentation. And then what if the condition is in mass media? If we are looking the mass media, USA also in the top position that in actors composition, and also the China politics. So if I have to talk about the differentiation, the differentiation itself is in the NGO activity in the China economy promotion, investment, Belt and Road Initiative. But the all clusters in the digital diplomacy network is discussing about and promoting about the China politics. I think that's all that I can tell to you.
Yeah, because this is very interesting. If we try to connect the actors, because we try to connect that with this political system of the China, is kind of different when you have more a democratic settings, right? So the way the actor tried to do the soft power, so I assume that you have that consideration in mind. Yeah. Okay. The third question, I think I would like to try to elaborate your points on your two other research questions. Yeah, I think this is the developments when you already identified the models, yeah, including the clusters you made, and you kind of propose three category of actors, the state actor, the government, and then you have the non-state actors. I don't know, can you clarify, because relate to the Chinese political system, yeah, is there the media and the NGO, you assume that being under control of the government, or is you cannot treat them as the way we assume in for example in democratic, because then is I think it's kind of connect with your third and fourth research questions, yeah, about the driving value. So what is your findings on the third research questions and the fourth research questions then? Do you get me?
Okay, yes, I get. So the finding of the third. Firstly, I will to answering about the third equation and also confirming about is China NGO and China mass media is under control of the China government. Based on my findings, China mass media is under control of the government because they are the part of soft power investment of the China, $1 billion annually. They invest in the China soft power. However, in the NGO perspective, I found that the Confucius Institute is the only NGO that controlled by the government. So because in China domestic, there are also China Democratic League. They can publish everything, but they cannot become a rural class. So this is the confirmation about that. So I think the NGO itself is the non-state actors. Although they cannot publish freely in the domestic, but the freedom of speech, the freedom of opinion in the China, based on my findings, it still exists for the NGO. And then how about the third research question, discussing about
the driving
value. So based on the third research question, I am answering this question by visualizing the dashboard in the decision tree. So the first finding that I have explained in the presentation. Sorry, I will zoom in. Okay, in the presentation in this slide, I remarked that the best scenario to increase the China soft power or driving factors the China soft power is using a political variable and using communism perception as the power source with the list of actors that can be utilized. But it's not stopping there. The continuity of the result is how the user of this data can make a different scenario. For example, I don't interest in the political system, but I want increase the China soft power by economic variable. So I click the economic, and the scenario is running. And then how to increase the China soft power through the economic variable? The effective way to maximize the soft power index is by promoting the socialism with Chinese characteristic. And if we want to choose who is the best striker to deliver this power source, again, Zhu Langzai, Sigiten Official, and so on and so forth. So there are a list of actors that can be utilized in order to increase the China soft power directly with the socialism characteristic as a power source. And I will tell the other two scenario. If I don't interest in politics and economics, but I'm a scientist. So if I am a scientist, I can increase the soft power by the computer science. So by looking this data, Republic of China can increase the scholarship in computer science, math, or something related to the data scientists. And then who is the actors that can effectively promote and distribute this value, this power source, is Xinhua News and so on and so forth. And lastly, this is the China equipment. If I want to increase the China soft power through the equipment, I can just promoting the 5G technology, referring to the stakeholder map and allegiance precisely. 5G technology is in the different position, different issues in the USA actors. Means they are interesting in the 5G technology, but in the same time they looking the risks of the national security in there. So this is the findings of the decision tree, the driving factors.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And then from that puzzle, yeah, because it is remind me reflect again on Professor Denece's questions again about the strategic culture, whether it's kind of warfare or something. So how then you can engage with your fourth last research questions? How then because you kind of click your hand, then you have the scenario, yeah. So when you ask about how the actors behave, so what is your finding that? What is the answer of that questions?
Okay, it's better also to visualize this finding because with more interactive way. So the first thing that I can explain is the finding from the stakeholder map. The stakeholder map reflecting the level of interest and level of influence means stakeholder map have ability to depict and classify each actors in terms of the strong or weaker position in the soft power issue. So there is a key players actors, Xinhua News, and ordinary player actors like national community and U.S. China relation. If I would running perception agency or campaign agency in USA, I want to utilize US actors to promote China soft power, and I see the key player, which US actors that classified as key player, so they have ability to influence and become the primary information. This is the list of the actors. So before we are mentioning about the list, the network data containing very much actors that excluding the NGO, mass media, and government. So I try to describe more cluster like academia and non-governmental. So if I want to promote China soft power in USA, I try to promote with academia. And then who is the academia actor is Victor Schiff, express of China politics. And then if I want to promote China soft power through the government, I have to choose USA State Department and USA Minister of Foreign Affairs. This is the one of finding in the key player quadrant. Jumping to the stakeholder allegiance, that reflecting about the actors' loyalty in the network. If I want to promote China soft power in USA, I have to find people who have a loyalty and better understanding about the China soft power. And if I want to see who is the advocate actors in USA, I can see Washington Post and then Dashan, China's entertainer, and also the next review news hour correspondent. And also there is Surab Gupta, this Asia Pacific strategic and economic policy specialist. So it's all about NGO and civil society, dominantly by NGO.
Okay. Yeah, just come across the way you answer the questions, because your question is how do actors behave, yeah?
Yep.
And the way you answer is like you use the word scenario if, yeah? Is there any like conclusion, because you also make the recommendations, yeah? Is
Yep.
there any conclusions of a different type of behaviors when, for example, it is the government is more likely to this cluster or something, or it is the media is more cluster on that? How would you kind of conclude that within the three actors?
Okay, understood. Basically, in order to defining how is the actors behave in the network, what the method that I done is looking the data row. So I just clicking in the data, which actors in the advocate, and I see the content that they publish, and I see the pattern grounded, and then I define, oh, this is the behavior of these government actors. So all in all, the government actors, both in the stakeholder map and the stakeholder allegiance, have a natural position in 5G implementation. The government actors, precisely precisely USA government actors. And how about the NGO? NGO is split up in the all quadrants, both in the stakeholder map and stakeholder allegiance. NGO is active actors. They discussing about the religion. They discussing about the promotion of language, and also about the China politics. And how about the mass media? Mass media, precisely in USA and China, also have a different perspective with the USA government. USA government see China politics is from the yin perspective, and the mass media of USA see China politics from the yang perspective, from the good side. So they discussing and they promoting the China ability to present the set development. So this is the characteristic of the mass media. How about the non-governmental, like European Union? The non-governmental tends to discussing about the 5G itself, but they trying to support the investment of China 5G, and the fact of the support if the European Union trying to promote this China 5G is safe for national security, because the issue and the propaganda of USA government, China 5G is not safe for the national security. And the academia of USA trying to also support the China development, but not reflecting to the China politics. So they discussing about the China economy, the China investment, NGO, and then many things that not related to the communism. So they trying to discussing about that. I think that's enough.
Okay, thank you. And the last questions, because I promised 4 questions, is the last question. When you make recommendations, how would you intend that to? How you direct that recommendations?
I'm sorry, what do you mean with intense?
When you drafting a recommendation, what you have in mind that the recommendation should be follow up, because you give the recommendation as part of your conclusions, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Understood. So basically, my research is classified in the four level of analysis. First one is descriptive, that reflected in the first, second, and third research question. The first and the second research question, and the diagnostic analysis level of diagnostic, why factors, causality factors, in the second B research question, and the last research question, actors' behavior. This is the diagnostic, the why factors, the causality, and the recommendation itself is classified in the prescriptive analytics, which the most high level of analysis that actually I don't have capability to give a prescriptive analytics, but I'm trying my best to give a recommendation by positioning myself as a state authority. And the result is, Professor Denece said that from the professional perspective, maybe it's not a kill perspective, it's not a precise perspective. So I realized and I argue that I'm not able to become to give a perspective analysis. This is my limitation. But what I can say is my recommendation is just based on my data that I finding. This is the maximal effort that I can do. Thank you. This is my limitation.
Thank you, Bimo. And the third session, I would like to invite Dr. Syaltout.
Thank you, Dr. Shiskha. And also I would like to thank my friends, my professor, Professor Denece, who come to examine my student, Mas Bimantoro. Thank you. Merci. Un grand remerciement. Infiniment. Thank you. And as a remark, I agree with Eric notes about the different approach in theoretical framework and more practical framework in intelligence perspective. This is the first remark. Maybe Bimantoro's work is more likely still theoretical framework and maybe not yet operational to intelligence perspective. This is the first remark. And the second remark is about digital theater or digital network, or maybe also about OSIN. Maybe Mas Bimantoro forget to explain about literature review that we use normally in intelligence practices to make a possibility ranking and so on and so forth. We use analytical hierarchy process, and Mas Bimantoro still in the literature review should control that inconsistency ratio should not pass or higher than 5%. Means the perceptions that we get from the open source reflect moreover on the reality or more the precise actuality. This is the second remark. Maybe you can explain more about how you work on judgmental powers comparison that I think is very painful. And the third remarks about open source and how to develop this kind of work and model. How do you use, or how did you use, or did you operationalize some lexical methods on more operational how to answer your some research question. This is maybe you have to explain to us, means there is no secret among us. Because we just received the answer, the dashboard, and so on and so on. But we don't, I think we don't know about how you find the result. It's just maybe just inspiration from God and so on and so forth. But we don't know how you find the answer. This is the third remark. Because in intelligent perspective, we have to validate the analysis and the data with okay, we classify the sources and the information. This information or in specific information is classified or not, and this information is verified by other trusted sources or not. I think you forget or maybe you missed the explanation about this, and we cannot justify this is solid or sin, I think. If you classify, okay, this information, maybe from the NGOs, from media, from government actors, and so forth, these informations, okay, in your perspective, in your judgmental purpose comparison, is trusted person. Okay, we can classify as A sources, B sources, and so on and so forth. And after that, you classify the information is the number one, or or maybe two, and so on and so forth. This is information is confirmed or verified by other trusted sources or not, or just one sources. If all kind of admiralty grading system that we know in intelligence practices, we can maybe more confident, I think, aspiring more confident to say this is intelligence model that we can promote and maybe duplicate, and maybe we can adopt in more practice or operational operation and so on and so forth. This is my third remark. And the fourth remark about prescriptive. Prescriptive is very powerful and very useful in intelligent perspective, because in intelligent perspective, the ultimate question is, so what? If the problem is blah, 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 and then so what? What should we do? Because in intelligent perspective, there is no natural perspective. We have to one side perspective based on our interest or based on our national interest. What the best perspective, what the best result, what the best predicted result that we hope to become a fact or reality. And unfortunately, in my observation, you jump to the fourth model of analytics. This is prescriptive analytics, but you miss to explain about predictive analytics, because to have a good prescriptive analytics, we have to, in the first time, we have to get a strong predictive analytics. Means we can predict, okay, if US actors, more precisely, US government actors do that or do this, it will be like this. The trend will be like this. We didn't see precisely about the trend and so on and so forth. And after that, you jump to the conclusion about prescriptive analytics. But it's okay. It's only thesis inspiring in dissertation or doctoral. You'll be finished. Maybe the review more precise, more details. As I remember that when I was a doctoral student and Professor Denece was my examiner, and in France we reported the test, who read one by one, line by line, not only on a methodological perspective. We classify, okay, this kind of methodology is perfect or almost perfect, as Eric said earlier. Okay, almost perfect means there is still a room to perfection, to improvement. And the second one, we have to classify the data, the sources. Okay, the sources that we grab or we collect, we acquire. Okay, this kind of data we classify first. Oh, this is the data that must be more utilized are A1 data, means very classified and very powerful data in intelligence perspective. And after that, based on data A1 or maybe A2 or B1 and so on and so forth, we can move forward. Okay. After that, we can strongly or we can confidently say that if we are in China's side, we should use this kind of issue. And precisely we use those actors as frontliners. Or other side, if we are in US side and US perspective, or maybe US government pay us, we can say, okay, if the US government pay us to decrease or to diminish the China's soft power, we can give an advice or intelligence recommendation. Okay, based on our intelligence data, we can say confidently this is A1 data, OSIN data, and after that we can confidently say that, okay, you have to distract or maybe attack directly to China's Xinjiang issue, for example. And we can see, explain, because in Xinjiang issue, the trend maybe based on the timeline. You can see we explain to our American friends. Okay, you can see if we choose this one, the trend US soft power will decline. We see the graphic, but okay, still missing. But I think you can put in your revision. Thank you for your presentation. I'm very glad and also very happy to direct your thesis. This is, I think, one of my best student ever. Thank you for your patience because your supervisors, I think, uh, what we can say as true franconism, because I have many memory when I was in France. Okay, my supervisor did the same way as I did to you.
No.
This is a good thing. Just a few words relating to what say Mahmud. The quotation system you were talking about. It's interesting to know that it was created during World War II in France, in Britain, because at that time, France was invaded by the German. So we have so many people cooperating with French and British intelligence in London. So it was easy to cross-check information. So at that time, they built the system with A1, A2. But we used to say that nowadays is not necessarily still working, because in a lot of situations, we cannot cross-check information. For instance, if we found an information in a specific meeting of Al-Qaeda, we don't have two agents. So we just have one. So it's impossible to cross-check information. So the system of letter and number quotation is still, we still use it in the during the education or the instruction in the intelligence and security service in the Western world, maybe as well in the Indonesian service. But in my opinion, it's an old system which is not every time still working.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I have to learn more, I think. I have to go to France.
Okay. I want to ask again, Professor Denece, you had something wanna add? Notes or something?
Well, once again, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Bimantoro for his work. I'd like to say I'm quite convinced by your skill to pose and develop an academic research. You did really good work. As you understood, I'm much less convinced by your subject and its interest. In my opinion, this is an interesting approach, but I would say it's like studying an election through polls. You understand? For me, digital world is largely artificial, and it's only the reflect of part of reality, but not the exact reality. So your study, your approach is interesting, but as I told you, as a practitioner, I don't see really in which way it could be useful. And as Dr. Mahmud said, I didn't ask question about your data enrichment and analysis, because I think I know the method, and so I didn't want to get into the kitchen with you to see you cooking. No, once again, it's a good job. In my opinion, I've been a criticizer, but as a master thesis, not if it was a PhD. So for a master thesis, it is really a good job. And just to give you some anecdote concerning the 5G, we are talking a lot in France, in Europe, about the 5G and the Chinese influence and the US influence. We perfectly see the US soft power with claiming that if the Europeans adopt the 5G, we are going to be under the rule of the China's intelligence service, who are going to listen to everything in Europe. And of course, for the time being, we are under the rule of the US intelligence agency, who are listening everything what we say in Europe. So as a French people, I say we need to share, how can I say, to have can I say to share the risk. Today we are absolutely under the US influence, so I don't see any danger that maybe part of the risk will coming from China. So this is interesting because this kind of subject is today very important in Europe, and we see also the US using ecological NGO to develop a theory concerning the risk of 5G. So once again, your subject was very interesting on this point. And okay, that's enough for me.
Thank you, Professor Denece. Yeah. Now we come into the two sessions that we're going to have discussions among the members of the examiners. And then I would like to ask Bimantoro and Kiki to leave the room for a while. But I forgot to mention, actually this today is national holidays for Pancasila days. So we can
okay.
national days.
No, because it's my wedding anniversary.
Oh yeah, wedding anniversary. Okay. So it's a very special day for Bimantoro to have Badr's Mas Syaltout wedding anniversary. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we're going to ask Bimantoro and Kiki to leave the Zoom room for a while, and then Mas Arya will then ask you go back again, and we're going to have some time to discuss.
Oke, Mas Bimo akan saya jadikan di waiting room dulu ya, Mbak Kiki juga. Silakan Ibu.
Oke, Bimo udah keluar?
Sudah Ibu.
Okay, thank you. Okay, gentlemen, I think.
Silakan Ibu.
Ya. Oke, Mas Bimantoro. Ya, oke. Mbak Kiki udah kembali ya. Oke, thank you. Okay, Bimantoro, we the committee already have the discussions, and I believe that you also already reflect about how the discussions going. Yeah. Before I kind of convey our agreements, our conclusion of the board of the examiners on your thesis defense, I would like to ask these questions. If you are given an opportunity, if you have an opportunity to improve your manuscript of thesis, what would you do then, Bimantoro?
Okay, the first thing that before one day before I jumping in this forum, I read again my manuscript and I see the simple mistake, a lot of typo, and then a lot of redundant, and then I just block my manuscript, and then this is bad, and okay, and I realized I have to revise it, and also there is some notes from Ibu Shiskha and Prof Denece, and also my supervisor Pak Mahmud Syaltout that I have to improve in the prescriptive or my suggestion in my findings, and also adding the predictive data. So I think that those two things that I remember. Please remind me if there's notes that I have not mentioned.
Okay, thank you, Bimantoro. I think you have quite a good reflections on the discussions that we have in our examinations. Yeah, I think in the sense of Mahmud wedding anniversary, I think I would like to confess that first we can enjoy your presentations. I think this is a good way of presenting your idea. Is quite sharp and concise in the way you can present your idea in a very short time. So I think I personally enjoy that. We also agree that that your works in level of the master's requirements is very good. I think we all agree that you quite did a very good job. I think how many years you finished this?
1 year.
Okay.
1 year.
Okay, 1 year. Okay.
1 year, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite. We appreciate a lot. Yeah, and reflecting on your notes on what kind of revisions that you did and you were going to do in the next 1 month. Yeah, because the time of the revision is 1 month. I would like to congratulate you that I think we agree that you passed this examination with conditionality. Yeah, I think we believe you also already realized that there is things still need to be improved, especially on your manuscript. We agree also that you have been mentioned. Yeah, we need you to still do your revisions on the technical aspect. You already sense that as well. Yeah, and you write about the two things that you been mentioned about the missing elaboration on the predictions that you have been mentioned. So we're gonna have hope that you do that. In meantime, the board of the examiners is happy to announce you that you are conditionally pass the examination with a categorization of A, and it's conditionally if you do the revisions. Yeah.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Shiskha.
Okay. Professor Denece, you want something to say?
No, once again, I'd like to congratulate you. I hope you're going to follow your academic career in the future. I hope you're going to still with my friend Dr. Syaltout. If you need any help, if you're interested in intelligence, don't hesitate to get in touch with me. Dr. Syaltout will give you my email. I will be pleased to help you if you think I can help.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay, Professor
Thanks a lot.
Denece. Dr. Syaltout?
Pak Syaltout sepertinya sedang reconnect, Bu.
Oh, reconnect.
Nah.
Okay. Dr. Syaltout, any last word you wanna say?
Well, thank you, Mbak Ica, for your kindness, maybe, for the gift of my wedding anniversary that my student passed the exam. I would like to thank again to my friend, my professor, Professor Eric Denece, the best professor ever. Mas Bimantoro, you have to.
I'm not sure. We have lost.
Maybe the family would like to join.
Yes. Connection.
Yes.
Halo.
Ya,
Halo.
koneksi jelek ya?
Yeah. Yes. Sorry. Mas Bimo, I think you have to ask many suggestion or recommendation to improve your works, and maybe if you have to plan to join to PGSD, because you are already developed digital diplomacy study club. Maybe you can ask to Bu Dr. Shiskha how to join the faculty members, and after that you have to advance your study in PhD, and you can ask recommendation or ask advice from Professor Denece if you still interest in intelligence analysis, OSINT, and so on and so forth, because Professor Denece is the best professor in this matter, in this subject. I think it's enough. The first thing first, you have to revise your work, and after that,
definitely.
please join us, ya, Mbak Ica, ya.
will become very
Okay.
happy. Yeah.
I
Thank you,
know.
everyone.
Thank you.
Just look to one thing. I have something special from Indonesia in my desk. Look.
Wow.
Wow.
It's always in my, it's one of my friends, which was back from Indonesia some weeks ago, bring it back to me. So I keep
Wow.
it with me.
Is it an axe? A small axe?
Sorry?
Is it a small axe or what?
Yes.
Okay, before we close the session, maybe Arya, we can have a group pictures on that. Just for
Okay.
Masal to give